during the time that I was in the convent, before I left, I left like in 1944, so it was 21 months, from 42 May to May, not in May, I came there in August 42 and left in May 44. But in 43, late summer, my father came to see us in the convent. Once in a while, it was my mother or my father came to see. The nun had found out that they were my parents. And when my mother came the first time, she was so perceptive. She said to me, "This was not your aunt, this was your mother." You know, she was very perceptive. But then when my father came, he had only come like twice maybe. This was the third time. And he hugged me and he said, I think this is the last time that I'll come to see you." I said, "Why, Daddy?" "Oh, it's so dangerous now because we have no transportation. There, on the buses, the Germans came, to check for Jews. So they were on the buses and on the subway, not subway, on the trolleys. The trolleys were still white." He says, "And I don't want to something happen." And I cried so hard. I said, "Daddy, don't say that. Don't say that I'm not going to see you." I couldn't take that. And yet it was the last time. Because shortly after that, a friend of my father, his son, you see, in order to have 2,000 people to go on a train, and Jews were harder to catch, they assembled them in a house called Malin, Mechelen, and that was like where they assembled them, and one of his friend's son died there, and he was buried on the cemetery, Jewish cemetery, and in order to say the prayer, you need 10 men, you need 10 men in the synagogue, and you need 10 men. This is Jewish, I would say. I don't think that God came down and said you need 10 men, but it must be a Jewish custom that became then incorporated into being the religion. So they came for my father, and he was the 10th man. And even though he wasn't Orthodox at the time, he couldn't say no to the boy who came to ask him to come to the cemetery for his brother. And I rebuked my mother her whole life. I said, "How could you let him go? You know that the Germans would be around waiting." "Well, I couldn't say." I said to him, don't go. But he said, "I have to go." So he went to his own funeral. They caught him right there on the cemetery. The 10 men, they caught him and they took him to Mechelen. My father was there for 3 months. I have some letters that I gave to the museum that my father wrote from there, that he's begging for some bread and lard to survive. So that's that. That's what happened to him. And now we got liberated when at that time when there was this underground guy came to take us from the convent because he was scared that we should go on the trolley and the Germans would come, even though I had a false identity card, but you never know what could happen. So I was on the bicycle, and the brother who had come to ask for my father, he took my little sister on his bicycle, and we went back to Brussels on bicycle. And when I said, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm going home, I'm going to see Daddy and Mom," he was kind of quiet. And I said, "Why you're quiet?" He said, "Because don't ask your mother about your father, because he went to work in Germany. He didn't want to tell me the truth." I knew right away. I said, "You're lying to me. You mean to say my father isn't my father?" He says, "Yes, but don't ask anyone." So I cried in the back. I was sitting in the back of him, holding on to him. And he said, "Don't cry, because people are going to look and you look suspicious." So even I had to hold him. And when I saw my mother, I didn't say anything. say a word. And then I stayed with her until until my girlfriend came to get me and took me to her house for 3 months. Now, they were unusual, good people. He was such a nice man, her father, for my girlfriend, and the mother too. They were nice, nice people. And the one thing that always touched me, and when I think about it, I have to laugh. You know, Sundays they went to Mass, but not the father. He stayed on. I used to call him Father, Father paid. Why are you staying home? Why aren't you going to church with your wife and your daughter? Oh, he said, that's for women. So, it just goes to show you, you don't have to go to church and you don't have to pray continuously to be a good guy, because he was a good guy. Whenever she went out, like Saturday night, she wanted to go see a movie, my girlfriend, and also have an ice cream. And each time he says, oh, you got to go too. I said, but I'm scared. No, go with her. You don't have to be scared. And like he gave her I say $5, but it isn't $5, for a movie. And then he put $5 in my hands. I said, but I don't want to take your money. I don't want to. He says, look, as long as you're in my house, you're my daughter. Can you imagine? What a man.
How'd that make you feel?
Such a good guy. Such a wonderful guy. And he wasn't that only. Like when we used to get porridge at night, there wasn't that much to eat, so we ate the porridge. And there was 3 bowls, smaller ones for us, and him a bigger bowl. And we'd sit down, and then all of a sudden he'll change his big bowl with mine. I said, why are you doing that? I mean, you're the man and you need? He says, no, you're too thin, you gotta eat more. Oh, God. No, I didn't always let him do it, but I said, oh my God, such a decent, nice human being. Now you see, you give examples of Christians like that. And to compare them to the others who were so willing to kill. It's, mind-boggling. How is it possible? I keep on thinking all the time. If they pray to God, they pray to Jesus. But they're praying to a Jew. Jesus never said he was Christ. He was born a Jew, died a Jew. 200 years later, they brought up another religion, Christianity. But he was a Jew, so how is it possible? Every Jew they killed Jesus over again. Don't they realize that? Where's the common sense? And you know how many still here on television? C-SPAN, I love C-SPAN. How many are calling in? It's because of the Jews, it's because of Israel, it's because, and I say to myself, all the trouble in the world, you should hear them. And I keep on saying, this is a Christian calling in, praying to Jesus, doesn't he realize? Because basically, in my mind, if they follow Jesus, they're all Jews because they follow the Jew. And why isn't that pointed out more? And when he made that movie, The Passion, that upset me. Because you don't bring out things again like that. Sure, there were people against Jesus in those times. But we learned in catechism, we learned in catechism, you had so many different Jewish sects at the time. The Samaritans, you had the scribes, you had the Essenes, you had so many different groups of Jews. he belonged, they say, to the Essenes, which they never found in the scripture. They looked at the Essenes he was never mentioned among the Essenes. All right, but here we have, in this day and age, we have Jews, we have the Lubavitcher, we have the Satmar, we have so many different groups following their rabbi. So there is, in a way, a little bit that, like with Republicans and Democrats. This one says, I'm right, and this one says, I'm right. Now, Jesus at the time also had his group of people. There were people who envy, who want to do something. It was just infighting. It was nothing more than infighting between different rabbis and different groups.
With all this questioning of religion, did you ever wonder about the existence of God?
Well, to me, it's a funny thing. When bombs used to fall, when you're in such terror, and I wasn't taught much about God, there is that inner voice that says, oh God, please help me. There is an inner voice that directs you to God. Yet, it's not, I don't believe in a God like the Bible portrays. Forget it. There's no such a thing as a father or the... I do believe that there is such a powerful, and I wouldn't say a being, a powerful energy in this world, beyond our comprehension, who did the creation, who did all that, but it's not in the sense of a father figure or a God. No, I will not, because I will not accept that, because from religion stems everything bad that came in this world. Wars, killing each other. Look at the Arabs, they have no qualms to kill a woman if she commits adultery. I mean, in the name of religion? No, that doesn't make sense.
When you were a child, during the war, did you feel this way as well?
I wasn't raised Orthodox or religious, but I was raised, my father taught me right from wrong. And he used all the parables that Jesus used. In Hebrew, the nun used to say, and now Jesus said in a parable. So Jesus said, my dad used to say that. And he said it in Hebrew, and he translated it for me. Now, my father taught me right from wrong, but to him too, I surmise religion did not make sense, because it's a division. It's a division. Like the same division is if we are white or black or yellow. There is a division, and this is what's no good. I cannot accept that, because we're all created, we're all human beings. There must have been some reason why we're all created differently. But we're all the same, and why say my religion is more than your religion? I mean, that's also stupid.
Yes.
It's so totally stupid. If anybody has common sense, he will realize that either we're good or we're bad. There is no such thing. Nobody can tell me you're a sinner, you're true, but that's our makeup. It has nothing got to do with you're going to wind up in hell if you do this, or that is ridiculous. Where are we all going to go? I mean, there's no such thing. I don't believe in hell per se. No, there'll be accounting, but then hell, in a way, is sometimes here on earth. Mm-hmm. We are going through hell before, in one way or the other, because each one of us is going to be hit in life with something that we think we're not going to be able to overcome, and that is the hell, the moment of hell. You ask anybody, everybody went through something terrible, more or less.
Can you pinpoint a moment in all those years that you spent in hiding or fear, what was like your moment of real, true hell? Was there any one time?
I think the moment I went in the convent for the first 3 months, until I knew what happened to my parents, I was so afraid that they were caught and I had no communication. But then the woman who took me, the girl, the daughter from the woman, she promised she was going to write to me, but it took her like 2 or 3 months before she wrote. And she says, your aunt and your uncle are okay. Then I knew. But that was hell then. That was the worst, the first few months. Not knowing, and also being subjected to a new religion that I thought, look, I went into the chapel. And I know one thing, it's peculiar that even though I wasn't raised Orthodox, but my father brought in a lot of things, you know, of the Bible in me. Like he said, you know, we're not supposed to make graven images of ourselves, you know, and you know, other things. And when I came into that chapel and I saw Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph and others there around, I said, oh my God, they're idol worshippers. You know, I mean, this was my impression. And you're not supposed to make a graven image, you know. So there was some sort of religion within me, and it's still within me. I'm not saying that people who pray or go, if they need it, fine, and you do whatever is good. If you want to live with that, fine, but you cannot put it on me.
Can you think of a moment where you really felt true comfort and...
I felt comfort in the convent, yes.
You felt totally safe?
Yes, yes, I felt safe, and after a few years there, and the funny part was seeing how contented they were, the nuns, and it was such a regulated life. I like regulation, you know, my father had done that to me too in a way. You know, they're getting up in the morning, and they're eating, they're going to school, and they're doing it. It was so regulated, you know, and you didn't have to think too far ahead. That came to the point that if it would have lasted another 2 years, I would have become a nun. I loved it. I loved their tranquility and the, you know, the safe, feeling so safe. I can understand now why some girls, especially when they're 15, 16, why they became nuns. And they took them at a very early age. Now forget it, no more. Not in Belgium, they tell me, no nuns anymore. It's like really going out, you know, with what they're seeing, but the evolution of everything, you know. And I guess people, with all the new inventions and everything, there's more maybe thinking going on in a different way, you know, not being so gullible, accepting things that aren't there, that isn't there, never will be there.
When you returned to Antwerp after...
It didn't return to Antwerp, to Brussels. My mother was hidden in Brussels. We did not return. I could not return. Mom, she said, maybe we should return. I said, Mom, I don't want to go back.
Why at that time?
I tell you because we heard the terrible stories of what had happened to the people who had disappeared.
What did you hear?
We heard that there were concentration camps and that a lot of people got killed, you know, then.
Was the phrase concentration camp?
Yes, yes. Then we started, but we didn't believe it at first, not in the beginning. You know, you really cannot believe that such a tragedy would have occurred. But then little by little it sinks in. And even then, I will tell you that maybe 10 years of my life went through also in semi-consciousness. That I did everything that had to be done, followed everything, but still not really feeling things, you know.
What?
Like going to a wedding and not being able to have joy.
How did that resonate within you? I mean, could you feel that something was off, and
Yes.
did you try to find a way to make that?
I knew that it couldn't go away. Not in the beginning.
What do you really attribute the emptiness to?
The loss of the father, the loss of the sister. You ask anyone of us, we'll all tell you the same story. We cannot find joy in life like others. We don't have it anymore. Hitler took that away. For the rest, there are moments, like the birth of my children where you're happy and all that. But there's always the sadness.
Is it still with
Yes. Yes.
you? Have you gone back to the cemetery where your father was?
No, we never went to that cemetery. I don't even know which cemetery it was. But it's like, I used to go to, let's say, an affair, something happening. And all of a sudden, to your mind it comes, why am I here? Why isn't my sister here? This always comes in. The loss, the terrible loss. Nobody overcomes, and that's why I feel with those people, 9/11, I feel with them. They're never gonna be the same again for the rest of their lives. They'll always experience that terrible loss. I know what they're talking about. They will never overcome this. Anyone, whether it be in Iraq, when they lose a father or mother or sister, these people will never be the same. Never. You've got to be. And that's when I go and speak in schools to the children. I say, don't fight with your siblings. You never know what happens. If you lose your sibling, your whole life you're going to think about it. It will always be your mind. And the beautiful letters I get, I feel so good. I went through my life always saying, why did I survive? Why did I survive? Why was I the luck? What is the purpose of me being survived? I think I found it now because coming here to Baltimore for about 13 years. I go to schools and speak about the Holocaust, but mainly to tell the children. First of all, I keep on saying to them, what are you rebelling against? Against parents? You rebel against those who feed you, who put a roof over your head, who make sure that you're going to have a good life. And you tell me Americans rebel. What is this? It's the most stupid thing that there could be, to rebel against your own parents. Imagine just if you're going to lose them. Come home one day, nobody's home. How? With all your rebellion. And how about your siblings? Why do you call them names? Why do you fight with your siblings? I hear everywhere, believe me, from my friends and all over, the siblings, but we cannot say anything. You see, we're the older generation. Our children have children, and these children are fighting. They're young kids and all that. Why do you allow these children to fight? Why don't you explain to these children, you as parents, just picture something happens to one of you. Your whole life you're going to think about that. You're going to miss somebody. They let the children fight. Well, children have to fight. I hear Americans here. Children have to fight, it's a natural thing. No, it shouldn't be a natural thing. You have to get along with your siblings. If you're already instilling that fight when they're young, how are they going to get along when they're going to be older? I mean, and then when I speak to teachers there, you know, they're so happy I come. I get letters from these children. You know, if you had time, I would show you. Thank you, Mrs. Bodner. I'm not fighting with my siblings anymore. Do you know what that does to me? Maybe that's why I survived. I have to open up some eyes, make some children aware. If their parents cannot do it, I have to be able to do that for them. And maybe then, you know, they're going to feel good, and they're going to have a sister, and they're going to have love, and they'll have it.
Are there any stories that you can think of that I haven't asked you about or haven't touched on that really, anything you want to share? I mean, I really
with my friend, let me tell you something. My friend Jeanne, the one that I met in the convent, she was like a sister to me. Wonderful, wonderful human being. So truthful and so feeling, just to bring me like a piece of chocolate sometimes. You know, that kind of kindness, that love, the sharing. Also with the nuns, I must have learned a lot from them anyway that makes me realize more about life than I see other people. Here, I'm living in this building. We are older people here. Some of them are so mean to each other. I'm sitting and I'm cringing. How is it possible? You know, I go over sometimes to one, I say, give in, don't be like that. Why don't you learn to accept a little bit? No, I'll never accept. I don't want to accept somebody 55 years old telling me, so what, so she told you something. Big deal. What is it with people? Why don't they understand to get along with others? And that stems already, and this is what I want to say. For my father, how he taught me, you say your opinion, sit with your sister, but don't call names, nobody's name. I married, and my husband, his family, how they, between sister and brother. Oh, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. I think you're crazy. What is? I was so horrified. I said, how is one family talking like this to another member? Why do they do that? Why do they want to hurt somebody else like that? You're wrong.
Tell me more about your friend in the convent.
The friend, she was so good to me. And she knew at first, the funny part of it that she told me she wanted to be friends with me, and she said to me, but I don't know whether I can be friends with you. I said, why? Because you're Jewish and I'm Christian. I said, what does that mean? She says, I got to ask my father to confess. So she went and asked him. And he said, no, there's no problem. He was such a nice guy too. And, but the nun, Mother Superior, she said, I don't want you to be too good friends with each other. I said, why? What are you scared of? Why can't I be friends with John? But then I realized something, you know, because being in the convent. I said, you have to remember one thing. You know, Christians always come out and they say, we want to talk, we want you to become a Christian because we want to save your soul. You know, that is their aim. I said to the Mother Superior, I said, Mother Superior, you have to know one thing. We Jews, we don't do that. We don't proselytize, and we never want to. On the contrary, we will say to anybody, don't become a Jew because we don't want you to suffer. Do you want 2,000 years of suffering on your back? So that's why we say, don't become a Jew. Don't. So then, she didn't know. What did she know? What did she know when they come and they touch my head, the nuns? where are your horns? You know that? Each time, where are your horns? I say, what do you mean with horns? This is 1942. They're looking for horns. You have no horn? You must have a third eye on your head. Why? Where did this come from? I didn't tell you where this comes from.
The rays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The horns.
Go ahead.
No, it's the same darn thing. And probably there must have been many other things. Now, also, that fallacy, and it's still propagated by the Arabs, that we Jews, we make the matzah, you know, our bread, unleavened bread, from the blood of Christians. Now, you take anything blood, how could it be white after you bake or cook? I mean, if you think about it, anything that you use blood with gets dark. No matter what you do, cook or bake or mix. What is this? And why was it perpetuated? For centuries, this is perpetuated. See, there again I say, I blame the rabbis. Why didn't the rabbis go over to some priest and say, why are you telling this? Well, this doesn't make sense. That's why I love it today with the ecumenical thing, that people do get together and people do tell of each other of some customs and some ways to understand better. People don't have to be fearful. Like they say to me, you're going in the church? You know, so why? Why shouldn't I go in the church? To me, you know, like I use God here, it's the house of God. So a church is the house of God. They pray to their God, I pray to my God. So what's the difference? But why? Why are people so lacking common sense?
We're gonna have to wrap up.
Yeah.
So if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Not much that I can, unless you ask me.
I think I'm still on questions. Do you guys have anything you wanted to
Yeah.
ask?
If you still have questions, yes, David. Would you like to know something that seems?
I don't think I have any questions, but maybe I'll think of one next time.
Yeah, why not? While you think, you know, I always say, while you are, until we see next time, if you have some questions about this, write it down. And I always say, even after we finish the program and everything, if you ever want to ask me something, ask. You know, if something seems baffling or whatever. You know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.